Hey, what's up guys? It's Jack and welcome back to another video. And every single time I've asked you guys to kind of give me your feedback down in the comment section below or your insight and everything like that, you guys have always been there for me. Sometimes it's more of you than other times, but for the most part, every single time I've asked for your feedback or your input or your point of view when it comes to any particular subject that I have ever asked of you in one of my videos, you guys have always been there, and this is going to be no different because I'll admit I'm not a perfect person, never have been, never will be, especially when it comes to this whole content creation thing. But in terms of a gamer, despite the fact that I've been gaming for 32 years and over 10 years of that being dedicated to multiplayer first-person shooters, I still view myself as a person who is always learning, and my viewpoint may well indeed be wrong no matter how right it seems. I'm always taking, there's always that possibility in the back of my mind that I could have been wrong, and this is where this commentary is coming into, because was I wrong? Or did I perhaps give today's players a little bit too much credit? Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I made a video, whether it was the previous video or the one before, and as well as a few videos before that, talking about why I believe the player base, just as an average as a whole, is a lot better today than it was like 10 to 15 years ago. And I still stand by that. However, very recent events have caused me to kind of question myself to a certain degree because of the fact that, well, it's more along the lines of, okay, maybe I gave the community a little bit too much credit. So what exactly do I mean by this? So, now for PlayStation, I've got the Call of Duty World War II disc. I tried to install it and it wasn't working. Okay, but I have it on Xbox as well, and I got my Series X on, and I put the Call of Duty World War II disc in, and it was able to install. The PlayStation, for whatever reason, wasn't. But anyway, that's besides the point. So the gameplay that you saw in the previous video was like one of the first games that I played back on Call of Duty World War II, just out of nowhere, just to see what the experience was like. And the gameplay you're seeing right now, depending on how many gameplays I post, it may be either be just one or two. But the first gameplay you're gonna see, I'm down by like what, 7 kills in joining this free-for-all match, and it's my first match, and it was after a long ass day of work, and I'm tired, and I'm like, might as well get in a couple of games of World War II. Maybe my last little session with the game was just kind of luck, and there's nothing sweaty or anything like that going on, because sometimes you can get lucky. But I have to say, in the year 2024, according to my recent experiences, Call of Duty World War II seems to be the most casual arcade shooter experience that one can find right now. Honestly, so far with my experience. And again, this is the first game, and this is past 11 o'clock at night as of the time of this recording, so it could have been like 10:30 or 10:45 when I recorded these two gameplays. And spoiler alert, if there is a second gameplay on, depending on the length of this commentary, I like barely lose, like barely. And but it was I could play half-assed. I don't have to play like all sweaty or try hard or anything like that. I could play at half pace. I can kind of chillax a little bit, but still be alert, but kind of like chillax, and I don't have to be, sweating or something like that just to get a decent score to go positive, unlike Black Ops 4. So I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, it's like, why is it that Black Ops 4 is so sweaty, and yet Call of Duty World War II, which was the game that came out the year previous, so it's not like it's that much older of a COD, and obviously there's people that still play World War II, quite a lot of them, and I'm on Xbox here, and World War II, PlayStation was more popular. So like as soon as I went to go find a match, guys, it only took like literally 2 seconds to find a match. And this is free for all. It's not nearly as populated as Team Deathmatch. And like, what is going on here? I was like dumbfounded. I was like, World War II is going to be sweaty, so let's test this. So ever since yesterday or the day before when I installed this game and started playing it, I was like, holy crap, I am actually having a very casual experience, and you know what? I'm loving it because I don't have to sweat all the time. But perhaps in this first gameplay or whatnot, it might seem like I was sweating just by default, because that's kind of been my default setting ever since the nightmare that was Black Ops 4. And I don't mean nightmare as in it's a trash game. I mean nightmare as in all the shit that I've been running into and all the stuff that I've had to deal with. Streaks being dropped on me, etc., sweats, and even a few cheaters here and there that I spotted. So, I mean, and don't say that there's no cheaters in Black Ops 4, okay? If somebody in multiplayer is able to run around with a jetpack, okay, and literally like fly and throw shit at you and win and all that kind of stuff. I mean, come on. You're not, there's no jetpack option for Call of Duty Black Ops 4 in traditional multiplayer. I know they had like a version of it for Battle Royale or whatnot for Blackout, but not in the multiplayer, okay? And of course, you know, the whole, everything else that I mentioned in the previous video. But anyway, so with my findings with Call of Duty World War II, I mean, I'm sure you have your casuals playing the game as well as your hardcore players. There's good players that play. As a matter of fact, when I played my first session a few days ago, I saw a team of 3, you know, tryhards, and they were just mollywopping the entire lobby. I still managed to actually stand out among my team, despite the fact that I had the worst teammates ever, but these guys were in a party of 3, and a couple of them were prestige level 1000s, and then the other one was in the hundreds somewhere, and they were just beating the shit out of the lobby. However, you know, I managed to stand out, so to speak, right? But you guys get the deal, right? So I'm thinking to myself, with all my findings, I'm like, it's like, yeah, no wonder people are doubting, you know, that there's no skill-based matchmaking in games like XDefiant that were sweaty as hell. And if you actually look at it from both sides, like, okay, let's say you're on the side that there is a form of skill-based matchmaking in XDefiant, right? Or, you know, let's say you agree with that, right? Or whether you disagree. Okay, there's 2 sides here. You either agree or you disagree, right? Some of you guys might not be sure, so you're walking the fence. So let's respectfully exclude you out, right? Let's say you either agree or you disagree, right? Again, the people that believe XDefiant has skill-based matchmaking, the things that they have to say actually do hold some merit. And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, there's lobbies disbanding after every match, which is, again, a sign. And there's the fact that it was very, very sweaty and it was very hard to find matches in between. And then at the same time, they'll also say, it was very hard to find matches to where it was like a little bit more casual. It just seemed a lot more sweaty. And then there was hardly any casualness going on at all for certain players. Other players will say that it was more casual or whatnot, whatever, right? But, and then of course, they're going to say a few people have had experiences that they recorded as well to where they were actually in a lobby waiting to match up with other people, and it took them like 10 minutes, give or take, right? The longest I've ever had to wait in XDefiant was like 1 or 2 times, and it took like 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. But then after that, it was relatively quickly. But when you compare it to like what I just experienced with Call of Duty World War II like took just a matter of a few seconds. And with XDefiant, it averaged around, you know, 20 to 30 seconds or so. But again, you get what I'm saying here? There's some merit as to why these people believe there's skill-based matchmaking in XDefiant. And on the other side of the fence, however, you've got people out there that have been dropping absolute bombs in the game. They've been doing high kill gameplays. They're able to feel the difference between, you know, they're able to feel that balanced experience to where every match feels casual enough, but they know when a particular player or players in the lobby are sweats because they can tell because of how they play, how they position themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So, and then I think, I mean, ultimately, like for a lot of people, there were a lot of similarities in the XDefiant beta or the playtest that we have recently, as well as differences. So it's like literally every experience is different, which again points to a sign of no skill-based matchmaking. But every single thing that you say, you know, whether you're on one side or the other, there are things to actually, you know, hold merit and water in your case. There's an absolute big reason. And I will tell you wholeheartedly, because I've always been honest, and I'll always stick to that, and I don't plan on ever leaving that. And as much as I realize that it is normal and very common for, like, let's say a beta of a game that's going to come out in a few weeks, or a play test like this game or whatnot, to be sweaty because the hardcore players are the ones that are aware of it, and the ones that are going to be there for that entirety of the time are the ones that are going to have it pre-installed and they're ready to go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I will tell you right now that one of the biggest reasons, other than the reason that I've already explained in a long-ass video in terms of players being better, one of the biggest reasons why I believe, and this is perhaps the biggest reason why I believe that XDefiant does not have skill-based matchmaking, and I will get roasted by at least half of the people that are about to hear this, is because Mark Rubin said so. I will wholeheartedly say that, and I will say that up until now, up until we're given any evidence whatsoever, unless we have a reason to say otherwise, I'm giving Mark Rubin the benefit of the doubt. If he says there's no skill-based matchmaking, and it is an open discussion that we have, unlike other developers out there that do put skill-based matchmaking in their games, but don't talk about it. But if they do talk about it, it's obviously scripted and overlooked by lawyers or whatnot. You know, I'm willing until we have, after the game releases, to where we actually have either some proof or another legit reason to not trust Mark and to not believe Mark. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And half of you guys will take my side, and half of you guys will not take my side. And both of you are absolutely right. Both of you are absolutely right. I am open-minded enough to say that, yeah, there's a possibility that Mark Rubin could be lying, but the question I have is, well, why would he lie when instead he would just keep his mouth shut? Now, I know some of you might counter that and say, well, of course he's going to lie because he wants to promote the game. And as soon as he hears that a lot of us will hear no skill-based matchmaking, we're going to jump on it like a bitch in heat. And you know what? You're absolutely right. You're not wrong. But for me, the biggest thing is until... like it's kind of like innocent until proven guilty, right? So Mark said that there's no skill-based matchmaking, so therefore, because of the fact that it was a 2-day test beta and a lot of sweats were on, obviously the majority of people being sweats, etc., and everything else, and because of Mark Rubin, what he said, you know, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. You know, and remember, I'm always the person to look at myself and say, hey, it could very well be a skill issue. But at the same time, I go back to a game like Call of Duty World War II, and I'm like, holy shit. You know, I mean, at the same time, it's like, you know, I mean, obviously compared to other sweats out there, I am way past my prime, guys. You know, for those of you guys that are in your 20s or whatnot, or even younger, you know, may you stay strong for as long as you can, because until you actually reach, you know, like, let's say my age, 39, going to be 40 in 5 months or so, like, until you reach that, you really can't say it because you haven't been there before. And I can tell you that it was years ago to when I started to feel shit slip. You know what I mean? In terms of my reflexes not being there like they were, as well as a few other things, you know? Obviously, you can do a lot of things to slow that down, like being consistent and all that kind of stuff. And things like spawn prediction and your technique and your aim could always be something to be improved upon. But things like in an arcade shooter to where, you know, twitch reflexes that go along with those other things, as well as some of the even movement and everything like that they implement with every single game, those little bits are actually new. So it's like, well, you know, you're not going to be quite the player that you were when you were younger. Trust me on this. And I wasn't even in my prime when I started playing these kind of games in terms of the arcade shooter. You know how old I was when I first started playing? It was 2010. And how old was I in 2010? Hold on, I'll tell you. I was like 26, 27 years old in 2010. And it was a Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2 / Black Ops 1, okay? So I wasn't even in my prime. I mean, well, I guess you can say I kind of was in my prime, but like in terms of video games, when you look at pro video game players, these guys are in their mid to late teens, and they retire when they're in their late 20s. Crim6 was 29 when he retired, okay? And that was around close to the time when I started playing these games. So I take all of these things into account whenever I think about, is there really skill-based matchmaking in here? I mean, there's some seemingly evidence to suggest that there is, because there's lobbies disbanding after every match. It's extremely sweaty, etc., all these other things going on. But yet at the same time, you got to look within and say, maybe it's a skill issue. Maybe it's different situations of the game. Maybe there's just more tryhards playing this game than that game or whatever. It could all be these things. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it points to skill-based matchmaking. And again, until we find like legit evidence otherwise after the game's release, it's a little premature to say that it is skill-based matchmaking. But again, I still stand by what I said. But at the same time, because of what I've been experiencing with Call of Duty World War II over the last couple sessions, let me tell you, I'm starting to think that maybe I just gave the community a little too much credit as a whole. Again, do I still think that players are really good in comparison to what it was back in the day? Sure. But again, maybe I gave a little too much credit. Like maybe I gave the community as a whole a little bit too high of a grade, and maybe I overestimated it. But at the same time, hell, I could be wrong. So anyway, I just kind of to really want to be transparent and tell you what I've been thinking, especially after my findings in World War II that really made me take a step back and think, what the hell? You know what I mean? So, and this is where you guys come in. I want to know your experiences. Have you experienced the same thing? What is your feedback for me on this? What side are you on? When it comes to XDefiant, what side are you on? Are you on Mark Rubin's side? Are you on You know, what do you think? Do you believe that there is? I mean, and again, what I mean by skill-based matchmaking is I'm not talking about the MMR team balancing system. And yes, there could very well be a possibility that there were a lot of sweats on the other team that were teaming up, and I was dealing with a lot of them. It could be a possibility, but at the same time, we also have to realize that that also may not be the case. And again, only time will tell. But again, looking at both sides, every single person that argues that there was has a few merits, and at the same time, people that say that there wasn't also have a few merits. So at the end of the day, you know, for me, it's innocent until proven guilty. I'm gonna trust Mark at his word as of right now, and until there's evidence to say otherwise, I'm gonna stick with that. And I guess we're gonna have to wait till after release to see what happens. So, but anyway, guys, I just kind of wanted to make this video and be as transparent as possible and just kind of speak my mind. And I thought it was very important because it's like, wow, I was really just pleasantly surprised. Sorta, kinda. You know, I guess I wasn't expecting it, but love to hear your feedback down below. I know this video was a little bit longer than the average video should be for a channel like this, but it's that important, so I thought I'd put everything in there. So anyway, with that being said, I'd really like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen, and especially if you decide to respond in the comment section down below and to give me some feedback. I really appreciate that. And with that being said, thank you all again, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.